I'm going to talk about really deal with why you may want to consider moving from a will in your estate plan to having a trust in your estate plan. So the sixth mistake is the failure to make sure your heirs receive their inheritance over a period of time, and not at all once because most lottery winners go bankrupt within a few years after getting their financial windfall. So one of the pitfalls of having a simple will is that if your beneficiaries, simple will, it just says they get everything outright. If they're age 18 or older, they just get it as one lump sum. And so if you think back to when you were 18, if you came into a large amount of money, or even maybe perhaps 20s, 30s, if you came into a large amount of money, would you have made the best decisions? I think back to when I was 18, and I consider myself pretty responsible, but I probably would have bought a new car. And you hear about these. I mean, we have had several instances of clients coming into larger inheritances, and maybe they're not financially responsible, but a lot of people approach them about making loans, whether it's for businesses or for the other family members' personal obligations. And so sometimes it's not that you think necessarily that your family or friend is financially irresponsible, but it's like the outside influences that come into their lives, and people get pressured. They come into this money and they feel kind of guilty because this other person has this obligation, and they feel like they can help them out, and they do, and all of a sudden you turn around and the inheritance is gone. And that's usually what you hear happens with the lottery winners, is that it's the bad investments that they make, the loans to people. And so the benefit of using a trust in your estate plan is that you really can control when your beneficiaries are going to receive their inheritance. And there's all kinds of different ways you can do that. I mean, the typical trust that's been out there for years is that your heirs get a third at 25, a third at 30, and a third at 35. So the whole thought process is that they've gone through school, they've been out on their own for a few years, they're going to get a third at 25. If they blow that, maybe they'll learn something for this next two distributions. I think a lot of people are starting to think that 25 is maybe even a little too young and shifting up to 30. But that's one way you can handle an inheritance, is that you're going to give it to them over a number of years, and you can pick any variation you want. We have started to do a lot more, I would say, sophisticated planning in terms of some clients, like Bill kind of talked about earlier, especially a lot of baby boomers, are really concerned that children are not going to have Social Security, or they're not going to have a pension when they retire. And so they really want to provide more of a nest egg for their children once they reach retirement age. And I just did a plan recently where, the children, the heirs, they're going to get 6% a year off the trust. 6%, they can do whatever they want. And it's not until they get to be age 62 where then they would start getting a lump sum or monthly payments. You can do any variation you want, but a lot of people feel strongly that in that 30 to 40 age range, that maybe we're going to provide them with some inheritance, but we don't want them to start getting lump sums until they get to be retirement age. A lot of clients are also concerned about their children getting divorced. And so that's another way that if the property is held in trust, it provides that extra firewall. We always tell clients that inheritance is separate property in Ohio and Kentucky, not subject to division upon divorce. But a lot of times you start commingling it. You get pressure you're going to put it into your house, pay off your mortgage, and now you've lost that separate property. So using a trust and basically delaying the distribution for the children over a number of years can provide that extra firewall. And also, a lot of clients feel very strongly that, hey, I want to provide for my kids, but upon my kids' death, I want to make sure it's going to go to my grandkids. I want to keep it in the bloodline. And so in that regard, you could actually hold it in trust for their lifetime. That's the only way to ensure that it would go to the next generation. And so we can provide provisions that, the children are going to get distributions during their lifetime, but it will be held in trust, and whatever is left upon their death goes to their heirs, and not perhaps the in-laws.
I have to